It is Monday, May 18th of 2020, and we are going to do a 6-card tarot card reading for you all today. I somehow knew this card was going to come out. I really did. So the first card that we pulled is the Fool. So let's do an intuitive reading and then we can cover the basis of what these cards mean. What I'm feeling for the first card is that there is this desire to almost approach things as an inexperienced being. Maybe you feel that if you had a little less experience than you already had, that it would be more interesting or more insightful. I think sometimes when we feel that we know too much about something, we kind of roadblock ourselves and in thinking that there's nothing new to learn about this one matter at hand. And so sometimes being, the newbie or the beginner gives us new insight and a chance to develop new wisdom on any matter of action. So perhaps you're feeling that you have a lot of knowledge about something specific and you're hoping to become objective, to look at it with a fresh pair of eyes and see it as a new pair of glasses. The second card we pulled is the Ace of Pentacles. And the Ace of Pentacles for us this evening is a supportive card in the way that Spirit wants you to know that they are pushing you into this new direction and almost guiding you to having a new set of eyes on something. And typically when you see a card like this come up after your foundation card, because the first card, the Fool, that comes up as your foundation card, the second card that comes up is essentially like a supportive hand. So if you're feeling this desire to have a fresh look at something, Spirit is coming through to say, like, we witness you, we're acknowledging that you want to have a fresh look at it, and perhaps it's not just that you have roadblocked yourself with this repetition or repetitive set of information, but maybe even guiding you to a new teacher to experience new things on the same topic under new people. The third card that we pulled is the Four of Swords. I teach a tarot card class on Mondays, and I actually pulled this card earlier this evening. So that's funny, or interesting, I should say, that this card comes up. This card is about contemplating and coming to peace and coming to terms with what is going on regarding your current situation. So maybe tonight you logged on to see if you could get some insight through the tarot on a specific topic. So far, we're only 3 cards in for our 6 cards. If you connect these 3 cards, the Fool, the Ace of Pentacles, and the Four of Swords, the topic could be that you're feeling, I don't want to say stuck, but in a sense, for lack of better words, stuck. That there are maybe new opportunities that are presenting themselves to you. Maybe some seem small and some seem large, and you're trying to kind of grasp and hold on to the one that's going to serve you well and interest you the most. I would say at this time, instead of trying to control what's coming your way, to just kind of like wake up in the morning each day and just say like, okay, universe, show me what you've got. Show me what I'm supposed to be doing today. Because this is kind of like forcing you to step outside of yourself and step out of your comfort zone as far as like your mind wanting to control what it is that you're going to do. The fourth card is another card from Spirit. Wow, we got the Ace of Pentacles and the Ace of Cups. So I would say either this is a spirit guide that's trying to connect with you or a loved one that has passed away. Ace of Pentacles and Ace of Cups are 2 very different spirits that are, were here on the physical plane and now have crossed over, and they're trying to support you on an emotional level and on a financial level. So if you're looking to make a career change, or if you're looking to make an education change and you're not really sure if it's the right thing, I would say that you have to pay more attention to the signs, because Spirit is trying to show you that you're moving into the right direction. And a lot of times we second guess things, but then you'll tell like the person sitting next to you the same thing, like, hey, Spirit's trying to nudge you and tell you that you're moving in the right direction, but then when it comes for yourself, you second guess it. So Spirit has come through twice this evening already through these 4 cards to let you know that you're going to be okay emotionally, and that you're also going to be okay financially. And the next card that we pull is the Chariot, which is a major arcana card. The Chariot, when it's forward facing, is very different than when it's reversed. I'm going to read it intuitively, and then again we'll discuss what it means authentically in the way of the tarot. So perhaps you feel like last year you were making a lot of stride in your life, and then 2020 came on the scene, and you know, like I feel like this is kind of a duplicate to the way the year started off last year. I think the year started off really difficult in 2019 and then got better towards the end. And then everybody was really excited about 2020, about how there was going to be all this new change. And it started out really great. And then this happened, right? We're all indoors more than ever before. So I feel like you may be seeing patterns, not necessarily exact timing, but you may be seeing patterns of things that are going on for you this year that you were seeing last year. And I would say it's really important for many of us to live in the moment. And we know this. We know that living in the moment is going to, and practicing gratitude is going to be the best thing for many of us. But, you know, we slip up because we're human. And sometimes we need reminders. And sometimes something like this, like hopping onto a feed that you were never going to hop onto, or hearing somebody say something now to you from someone else's mouth may resonate with you than 2 other people who told you before this. It's important that you practice gratitude for where you are now, and it's also really important that you live in the moment right now. Because yes, I'm sure that you are seeing some sequences and some patterns and repetitive behaviors from this year to last year. Obviously, everything that we experience is part of our path and part of our journey, and we have to go through those trials and tribulations to put us into alignment to where we're supposed to be heading going forward. If we didn't have that to work with, we wouldn't have anything to work towards or away from. So this card essentially makes me feel like you're trying to find the balance in all of this, and it's very difficult for you right now because you're comparing yourself to where you were, or what you had, or what you were doing, or what you thought you should be doing. Because the Chariot itself is about moving forward, and the card is reversed. The 6th card that we pulled is the 9 of Cups in reverse. The 9 of Cups for us this evening is about kind of falling into our own. And what I mean by that is, I think we project what we assume other people are thinking about us, right? Maybe you think that your parents wanted you to do this, or wanted you to be that, or the partner that you're dating, or the partner that you're with, or married to, or have children with, thought you should be doing this, or thought you should be doing that. And it's interesting because I actually said something similar in the class earlier, is that a lot of times we think that we know somebody, or we think that people know us well, right? But the fact of the matter is, if we don't know ourselves well enough, and I think for most of us, we struggle with that, getting to really know who we are, or we think we know who we are and then the universe switches it up. So if we don't really know who we are, how can we expect our partners to know who we are? So this card is about falling into your own, discovering and rediscovering what that is for you now, or who you are at this present time. And then if you collectively look at these cards together, the Fool in reverse, the Ace of Pentacles, the Four of Swords, the Ace of Cups, the Chariot in reverse, and the Nine of Cups in reverse, you could essentially say that number one, all of these synchronicities that you're feeling and all of these signs that you're getting is for you to acknowledge that sometimes just moving, and I don't mean physically like from house to house, just moving is enough for some of us. Some of us wake up at the crack of dawn, ready to tackle on the day, and some of us roll out of bed at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, just happy that we made it out of bed. Everybody's in a different space, in a different place, on a different path, and on a different journey. So I feel like at this point, what we need to acknowledge is Spirit is trying to connect with you, to tell you, and whatever you consider Spirit to be, that could be an ancestor, a loved one, your guides, your ascended master, your God, your angels, whatever you identify with, Spirit is trying to tell you that you are on the right path for who you are in this moment. Again, we can't compare ourselves or expect people to know who we are if we don't even know who we are in this moment. First and foremost, the Fool came up for us the first time in a long time, and it was the first card. And that's the first card in the major arcana in the tarot. We start with the Fool and we end with the Fool. And it's funny because I really emphasized him a lot in the class that I was teaching earlier today. We're teaching the major arcana class and the minor arcana class on Mondays. And today specifically, I said, you know, it's so interesting that something dawned on me for the first time. And I've been a lover of the tarot for many, many years, probably over 30 years now. I've never thought of the Fool as I did today. Today I thought about the Fool almost being as comparable or in comparison to the word fear. I feel in my own mind that fear masks itself as many different things. I feel that fear masks itself as greed, anger, sorrow, resentment, grief, anxiety, fear, pardon me, I didn't mean to say fear, depression, many different emotions. But I think the root of all of that is the word fear. And then I said that I believe we wear different masks with different people. It doesn't mean that we are not authentically who we are while we're wearing those masks. And I made the reference about listening to music really loud. So maybe here in my neighborhood where I live, I'll listen to the music the loudest it could possibly go. But as I'm pulling into Port Jeff Village to show up to work as a business owner, I'm not necessarily going to have the music on the highest volume that it goes. That doesn't mean I'm not Jenna in that car with that music. It just means that maybe I'll be a little bit more conservative with the way I am outside of my own element. And then I mentioned that there are 22 cards in the major arcana. And I said, I bet if you took the time to think of 22 people in your life, you could probably say that you have 22 different masks, at least, at a minimum. You're different with your mother or your father than you are with a lover or a best friend or your sister or your brother or your children or your neighbor or your people in your community. You know, we wear many different masks. It does not mean that we are inauthentic. It just means that we have these veils. And I said, it's funny because I bet fear has 22 different disguises. Like I said, anxiety, fear, grief, and all, excuse me, I keep saying fear twice. Fear has 22 masks like grief, sorrow, sadness, resentment, and things of that nature. And the same thing with the Fool. He has 22 positions. So when we are reading a tarot card and we pull the very first one in the reading, like the Fool, he's almost the most authentic one because he's not masking himself as any other role. But then you get to the Chariot Same thing. It's a major arcana card. He's the 7th one in the feed, right? In the major arcana. So that means we took 6 steps between the Fool and the Chariot to get where we are. And the Chariot authentically is about having a vehicle and not moving forward. So the Fool shows up as this novice, this inexperienced, jovial person. And then the Chariot shows up and he's like, I'm this vehicle, I need to be moving forward, but I'm not moving forward. Which means that maybe we hide behind some of these masks, out of a sense of comfort, like a veil, so that we feel safe. Kind of like when you do a tarot card reading. The tarot card reading doesn't come from me, it comes from spirit. It's not Jenna telling you what these cards mean. It is the cards of what they authentically mean, and then I'm just transferring the message from the card to you. So it's kind of like the tarot is a veil or a mask for me when I'm sharing this time with you. Then we come into the other 2 cards out of these 6 cards, which is the 4 of Swords and the 9 of Cups. And that has a lot to do with being in our head and being emotional. But I feel like this 9 of Cups comes up as like a liberation, that maybe finally you're feeling a little bit more emotionally stable and comfortable than where you have been. And maybe even so that you've been a little bit more content in the mind than some of the cards that we've been pulling up in the weeks earlier, where there was a lot of like chatter going on and that kind of, monkey mind where we're overthinking things. I think right now the most important thing is to focus on deciding not where to go from here, but whether or not you're ready to go from here. Does that make sense? Whether or not, because like I said, we're all in different spaces and places, and everybody has their own divine timing. So do you really need to go anywhere? And I think that's kind of been the thread for 2020. I think so many of us project what we think we should be doing. We're kind of raised to think about, what do you want to be when you grow up? Do you want to get married? Do you want to have kids? It almost, here in the US, becomes like an idea of society that we have to get a job or go to, graduate high school, go to college, get a job, get married, have kids. It's like all this pressure on us that's kind of like passed down inherently through generation and generation. And that's not for all of us. For some of us, it's just being here in this moment and not projecting all of these things that we have to, all of these pressures that we have to collect and put on ourselves. So maybe for years, for a decade or so, you've been saying, oh, I'm going to do this when I get older. And then you get older and you're like, I'm still going to do this and I'm going to go back to school to do that. And it's almost like even when you see people from your past, you're like, how are you? And then we create this checklist, like how you are. Oh, I'm well, I'm working, yeah. My son's working, my daughter's working. It's like we think that that's acceptable for society to say, how are you? Sometimes we're just functioning, and that's enough for some of us. And I think that in a common conversation, like on a surface, maybe not somebody you see all the time, we kind of have this checklist of how we are based off of what we're doing. And there's all this pressure on us when we have to think of all these things that we're supposed to be doing. And I really feel that collectively, these 2 major arcana cards showed up just to say, like, maybe you want to feel a little inexperienced at this time and you don't want all this added pressure about deciding whether or not you should be moving forward from here, and just accepting what is as it comes. So hopefully that'll give you some insight as to what's going on. I would say that if you have a moment during your day to just maybe start a gratitude journal and just say one thing a day that you're thankful for. So that is our 6-card tarot card reading for today, Monday, May 18th. For our YouTube followers, I thank you for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow.